Boeing's CEO delivered quarterly earnings to Wall Street investors this week. Record profits, massive backlog, saying that the company is finally turning around. But then 23 minutes into the call, Kelly Ortberg dropped a single sentence that will cost airlines billions and push the world's largest passenger jet another year into limbo. A borescope camera slid into one of the most advanced engines ever built and found something that wasn't supposed to be there. The GE9X, 134 inches of composite blades and ceramic components generating 110,000 pounds of thrust, has a durability problem nobody saw coming. This is the fourth major failure on an engine that's taken 7 years longer than promised to certify. We're going to analyze exactly what keeps breaking, why the world's smartest aerospace engineers can't seem to fix it, and whether the 270 airlines waiting for their 777X orders will ever actually get them. Boeing told investors on January 27th that the company just posted a $2 billion annual profit, first time they've been in the black since before the pandemic. Their order backlog hit $682 billion, an all-time record. Kelly Ortberg, the new CEO who took over during Boeing's darkest days, is painting a picture of recovery. Then he gets to the 777X. And you can hear the careful phrasing, the lawyer-approved language that tells you something's wrong before he even finishes the sentence. Quote, "We have identified a potential durability issue during a recent inspection on the 777-9 engine, and we're working with GE to better understand that issue and finalize root cause and corrective action." End quote. Potential durability issue. That's corporate speak for something broke and we don't know if it's going to keep breaking. According to Flight Global's reporting, this happened during what's called a borescope inspection, essentially sliding a camera through access ports into the running guts of the engine to look for cracks, wear, or metallurgical changes that shouldn't be there. The FAA requires these inspections at specific intervals during certification testing, and this particular engine had racked up significant hours pushing the aircraft through Phase 3 of type inspection authorization. But Boeing's carefully chosen words are hiding something bigger. Boeing and GE won't specify whether it's the fan blades, the compressor stages, or the turbine section, just a durability issue. GE's official statement reads like damage control. "We have an on-wing inspection program in place to support Boeing while we analyze the issue and define the corrective action, guided by our safety and quality systems." This matters because the 777X was supposed to enter service in 2020. That slipped to 2021, then 2023, then 2025, and as of October 2025, Boeing had committed to 2027 deliveries. This latest engine issue doesn't officially delay that timeline. Ortberg insists they're still on track. But Emirates President Tim Clark, whose airline has 270 of these jets on order, isn't buying it. Clark told Aviation Week he's a little bit miffed that he learned about the delay from a public earnings call rather than a phone call from Boeing. His quote cuts through the corporate spin. "When they said they pushed it to 2027, that's a 12-month period, am I looking at the first quarter? Second quarter? Third quarter? Fourth quarter? They don't know. They honestly don't." And Clark has good reason to be skeptical, because this engine has a history. But here's the part Boeing didn't mention on that earnings call. This isn't the first time the GE9X has had a durability problem. It's not even the second or third. Since development began in 2013, this engine has suffered 4 separate major technical failures. And when you line them up chronologically, you see something Boeing and GE don't want you to see. Each failure happened after the previous one was supposedly fixed robustly, which means either the world's best aerospace engineers keep missing something fundamental, or this technology is being pushed beyond what current materials science can actually handle. The first crisis hit in 2018 and 2019, before the aircraft ever flew. Engineers testing the high-pressure compressor, the section that squeezes incoming air to 50 times atmospheric pressure before combustion, started seeing cracks in the variable stator vanes. These are the adjustable airfoils that control airflow angle into each compressor stage, and they're actuated by lever arms connected to a unison ring that rotates to change their pitch. Under extreme testing conditions, those lever arms started cracking. The components were deteriorating faster than the engineers had predicted, causing exhaust gas temperatures to spike outside acceptable operating ranges. GE9X program manager Ted Ingling later told reporters, quote, "It is solved. It is fixed robustly. It is better to have found it in the factory than find it in the field." That fix pushed the GE9X's first flight from February to March 2018 and delayed the 777X inaugural flight from mid-2019 to January 2020. But it was caught in testing, corrected with redesigned parts, and the program moved forward. That should have been the lesson learned. It wasn't. Fast forward to October 2022. The 777X test fleet is conducting flights between Seattle and Moses Lake, accumulating hours for certification. Aircraft November 779 X-ray Whiskey lands after a routine sortie, and during post-flight inspection, Boeing technicians noticed something unusual during a borescope check. The engine in question had logged over 1,700 flight hours and 2,600 pressurization cycles, high time for a test engine, but well within expected durability targets. Boeing shipped the engine to GE's Peebles, Ohio facility for teardown and additional runs on the test stand. During one of those runs, a temperature sensor triggered an automatic shutdown. The exact cause was never publicly disclosed, but the entire 777X test fleet was grounded for 2 months while engineers inspected every engine and implemented corrective actions. The troubling part? This happened 2 years after the GE9X had received FAA type certification in September 2020. But what happened in August 2024 made those earlier problems look minor. Aircraft Whiskey Hotel 003 had just completed a 5-hour 31-minute flight from Kona, Hawaii, a long-range ETOPS proving run testing the aircraft's ability to fly extended over water routes. Standard procedure after these flights calls for detailed inspection of all engine mounts and structural attach points. What they found was catastrophic. The thrust link, a 13-foot titanium structural beam that transfers all engine thrust loads into the wing box, had completely severed. This isn't a GE engine component. It's part of Boeing's pylon design, the structure that hangs the engine off the wing. When engineers inspected the other test aircraft, they found cracks propagating on multiple thrust links across the fleet. The 777X was grounded for 5 months. Boeing's investigation determined that vibration-induced stress concentration at the forward engine, attach bolt, was exceeding design limits. The fix required redesigning the bolt itself and modifying the surrounding pylon structure to redistribute loads. It's the kind of fundamental structural issue that should have been caught in finite element analysis and ground testing years earlier. To understand why these repeated failures are so damaging, you need to understand what Boeing promised back in 2013. The 777X launched at the Dubai Air Show with 259 orders worth $95 billion. The largest commercial aircraft launch by dollar value in aviation history. Emirates, Qatar Airways, Etihad, and Lufthansa committed based on 3 key promises. 10 to 12% better fuel efficiency than the 777-300ER, revolutionary folding composite wingtips that would allow the aircraft to fit existing gates, and entry into service by 2020. That 2020 target is now 7 years overdue. Within 7 years, every one of those promises would be broken. And it's not just the engine. The entire aircraft has been plagued by issues that reveal how difficult modern aerospace development has become. December 8, 2020. The 777X is mid-flight during certification testing when the aircraft's nose suddenly pitches violently without pilot input. It's what engineers call an uncommanded pitch event. The flight control system did something the pilots didn't ask for. In the post-737 MAX world, that phrase triggers alarm bells at the FAA. The investigation revealed issues with how the fly-by-wire flight control software was interpreting sensor inputs during specific flight regimes. Boeing had to tear apart and rebuild chunks of the flight control logic, add redundancy to critical sensor arrays, and revalidate the entire system architecture. And the FAA had seen enough. By May 2021, the FAA had formally rejected Boeing's request to proceed with type inspection authorization. The agency's language was blunt. Design maturity is in question as design changes are ongoing. They warned that realistic certification was at least 2 years away, possibly more. This reflects the FAA's post-MAX posture. The agency established a dedicated technical advisory board of approximately 16 members to independently examine human factors, airworthiness, and system safety assessments. They reduced delegation authority to Boeing's internal inspectors, meaning FAA personnel now directly evaluate systems that manufacturers use to self-certify. And they implemented an unprecedented 5-phase TIA process instead of the traditional single authorization. As of February 2026, Boeing has completed TIA Phase 1, which covers basic airworthiness and initial flight envelope expansion. They've completed multiple Phase 2 variants covering crosswind landing certification, brake system validation, and community noise testing. They're currently in Phase 3, which evaluates avionics integration, environmental control systems, and auxiliary power unit performance. Still ahead, Lightning strike resilience testing, electromagnetic interference trials that verify the aircraft won't suffer system failures if maintenance crews forget to install a protective panel, extended operation certification for transoceanic routes, and the final FAA conducted evaluations with agency pilots aboard. Boeing has logged over 4,200 flight hours across 1,500-plus flights with 5 test aircraft, but significant hurdles remain. European regulators at EASA have raised additional concerns about flight control system redundancy following lightning strikes. Specifically, what happens if a strike damages sensors while the aircraft is already operating with one failed system due to a maintenance lapse? Boeing had to provide detailed responses proving that even when multiple things go wrong at once, the aircraft maintains safe controllability. But even if Boeing clears every regulatory hurdle, there's still the fundamental question nobody wants to ask. Why is the GE9X so hard to get right? To answer that, you need to understand just how far this engine pushes the boundaries of materials, science, and thermodynamics. The GE9X produces staggering numbers, 110,000 pounds of certified thrust. Though during testing, GE pushed one engine to 134,300 pounds, setting a world record. The fan diameter is 134 inches. The remarkable part? That massive fan has only 16 blades compared to 22 on the GE90 engine it replaces. Those blades are 4th-generation composites, carbon fiber reinforced polymer with titanium leading edges. Each blade is hollow, manufactured using a resin transfer molding process that was developed specifically for this engine. The weight savings are dramatic. The entire fan assembly is 350 pounds lighter than the GE90s, despite being larger. But the real gamble isn't in the fan. It's in what's burning behind it: ceramic matrix composites. These are silicon carbide fibers in a silicon carbide matrix, and they represent a fundamental shift in how hot section components are manufactured. Traditional turbine components use nickel-based superalloys that can handle about 2000 degrees Fahrenheit before requiring extensive cooling air. CMCs can operate at 2500 degrees while weighing 1/3 as much. GE threw $1.5 billion at developing CMC technology and built 4 factories just to make these parts. The GE9X incorporates 107 CMC parts across 5 component types: inner and outer combustor liners, first-stage high-pressure turbine shroud, and first and second-stage HP turbine nozzles. The efficiency gain comes from this. In a traditional engine, you have to bleed off 25 to 30% of the compressed air just to cool the turbine blades so they don't melt. That's air you're not burning for thrust. CMCs reduce cooling air requirements by 59%, which means more air goes through combustion, which means more thrust per pound of fuel burned. Before the 777X ever flew, GE ran the GE9X through 17,000 hours and 27,000 cycles of testing, the most rigorous pre-service validation in the company's history. 9 test engines specifically for FAA certification accumulated 5,000 hours and 8,000 cycles, including 1,600 dust ingestion cycles and 3,000 ETOPS endurance cycles. GE bet everything that ground testing would catch the problems. History proved them wrong. Ground tests cannot replicate all real-world operating stresses. You can't simulate the exact combination of thermal cycling, vibration, foreign object ingestion, atmospheric conditions, and power setting variations that an engine experiences in actual airline service. Rolls-Royce engineer Dominic Horwood learned this lesson during the Trent 1000 crisis, when high-pressure turbine blades started corroding in service despite passing all certification tests. His assessment was brutally honest, quote, "The issue is how to find such issues on the test bench, how to convince the engine it has been flying for years in, say, Asia." EASA has since proposed updating certification requirements that in some cases are 60 years old. The European regulator noted that, quote, "Root cause of such failures may have been identified during the engine endurance test if the test conditions and the engine configuration had been more representative." They are now recommending manufacturers include 1 to 2 additional years of maturity testing in development programs. For the airlines waiting for their 777X orders, Boeing's delays aren't just inconvenient. They're forcing multi-billion-dollar fleet adjustments that ripple through route planning, crew training, and customer experience strategies. Emirates holds 270 aircraft on order after adding 65 more at the November 2025 Dubai Air Show, a $38 billion commitment. President Tim Clark has been the most vocal about his frustration, and his comments reveal the operational chaos these delays create. Clark's assessment of the 2027 timeline carries weary skepticism. Quote, "The aircraft is over 5 years late and, if it continues to be late, our patience will be truly tested. We have an aging fleet, which needs to be replaced." Emirates' response has been a $5 billion retrofit program for 191 existing Boeing 777s and Airbus A380s, installing premium economy cabins and upgrading business class products that were supposed to debut on the 777X. They've also ordered 65 A350-900s to fill the capacity gap. Lufthansa faces similar challenges. The German carrier was designated as launch customer for the first 777X delivery, and they'd planned to debut their new Allegris business class product on the aircraft. Instead, they've retrofitted Allegris onto existing 787s and A350s. Meanwhile, they're still operating quarter-century-old 747-400s and A340s on routes that were supposed to transition to 777X in 2021. And the financial damage goes far beyond just one airline. Boeing has accumulated over $15 billion in pre-tax charges on the 777X program. $6.5 billion in 2020 when certification first slipped significantly, $4.9 billion in Q3 2025 when delivery moved to 2027, plus additional charges for extended development, supply chain disruptions, and customer compensation. CEO Ortberg's explanation reveals just how precarious the economics have become. Quote, "Even a minor schedule delay on the 777X program has a pretty big financial impact because we're in a reach-forward loss situation." Translation: the program has lost so much money that Boeing can't recover development costs across the first 500 aircraft built. GE Aerospace faces its own exposure. The company has invested over $2 billion in GE9X development plus $600 million in supply chain infrastructure and $1 billion in MRO facilities, including a new Dubai South Service Center opening in 2027. With 700-plus engines on order worth approximately $28 billion at list prices, the stakes extend decades into the future. The competitive implications favor Airbus in the near term. The A350-1000, the GE9X's direct competitor, has been in service since 2018 with 103 aircraft operational and proven 99.3% dispatch reliability. As aviation consultant IBA Group noted, quote, "As the 777X program continues to be affected by delays, Airbus' competing A350-1000 product has gained some market share. Yet Boeing maintains a larger wide-body order book, 418 orders in 2025 versus Airbus's 201, and Emirates' continued commitment signals confidence in the ultimate product, which raises the uncomfortable question, has this happened before? If there's any consolation, it's that the GE9X's troubles fit a well-established pattern in aerospace development. Next-generation engines pushing thermal and pressure limits have always encountered durability trade-offs. Pratt & Whitney's PW1000G geared turbofan faced powder metal contamination in high-pressure turbine components that required inspection of 1,200 engines over 3+ years. Rolls-Royce's Trent 1000 suffered blade corrosion and cracking across 500 engines, taking 4 years and £2.4 billion to fully resolve. Even the legendary GE90, the GE9X's direct predecessor, and the engine that powers most of the world's ultra-long-haul flights, nearly died in development. GE CEO Jack Welch famously wrote an internal memo stating, quote, "The GE90 is dead, put a stake through its heart." He wanted to cancel the entire program. Engineers convinced him to give them one more chance, redesign critical components, and the GE90 went on to become GE's most profitable long-range engine. Industry consensus holds that modern engines will never match the legendary durability of older power plants like the CFM56, which routinely achieved 30,000+ cycles on wing. The CFM LEAP, its successor, sees some operators pulling engines off the wing for overhaul every 3,000 cycles in harsh operating environments. That's the trade-off for 15% better fuel efficiency. So, where does this leave the 777X and the GE9X? Boeing has built 26 airframes total, 4 actively flying in the test program and 22 sitting in storage at Painfield awaiting certification. GE continues producing engines at its Evendale, Ohio facility, with approximately 60 power plants in various stages of assembly. The remaining certification milestones are defined. Complete TIA Phase 3, obtain Phase 4 and 5 approvals, finish lightning strike and electromagnetic interference testing, complete ETOPS validation flights, and pass final FAA evaluations with agency pilots aboard. Boeing insists the 2027 delivery target will hold despite this latest durability issue. Whether that's realistic depends on answers Boeing and GE haven't provided yet. Is this January 2026 durability issue a batch manufacturing defect affecting a limited number of components? Or does it represent a fundamental design flaw requiring architecture changes? Can it be fixed with an on-wing inspection program and selective part replacement? Or does it demand engine teardowns and component redesign? Tim Clark's assessment cuts through the corporate optimism, quote, "When they said they pushed it to 2027, that's a 12-month period. They don't know. They honestly don't." History suggests the GE9X will ultimately mature into a reliable workhorse. The GE90 recovered from near cancellation. The Trent 1000 achieved 0 aircraft on ground after 4 years of remediation. The PW1000G is approaching resolution with its GTF Advantage variant. The question isn't whether the 777X will fly passengers, it will. The question is whether Boeing can execute what CEO Kelly Ortberg calls a mountain of work, without additional financial charges that strain an already precarious balance sheet, and whether 7 years of delays have eroded customer confidence beyond repair. Airlines with 565+ aircraft on order haven't defected. Emirates just added 65 more to its commitment. That suggests the technology, ceramic matrix composites, 4th-generation fan blades, the world's most efficient wide-body power plant remains compelling enough to wait for. But as this latest durability issue proves, advanced materials operating at the edge of thermodynamic limits will keep surprising even the smartest engineers. And in an industry where safety margins are measured in 9/9 of reliability, every surprise pushes certification further into an uncertain future. If this deep dive was valuable, please like and subscribe. Super thanks support helps us keep making technical aviation content like this. Thanks for watching.